Today, I'm going to show you how to create an unintended install of Windows 11 that bypasses the hardware requirements and the Microsoft account requirements. And once you make this thumb drive, you don't have to do anything. You just plug it in and walk away. Oh, and also, it debloats Windows too. Stay tuned. So, I've shown you lots of ways to debloat Windows 11. I've also shown you ways to bypass the Windows 11 system requirements. We've also done several videos on bypassing the Microsoft account requirements in Windows 11. However, today, we're going to put all that to the side and we're going to create one install that will install a debloated copy of Windows 11 on unsupported hardware without a Microsoft account. And all you have to do is put in the thumb drive and hit the power button and the install will be completely automated. But first, I gotta pay some bills. So check out today's sponsor. Is your copy of Windows 10 unactivated? Well, it doesn't have to be, because with today's sponsor, VIP SCD Key, you can get a valid Windows 10 license for under $20. Stop dealing with that stupid watermark on the desktop, the valid license for Windows 10. Also, with an activated copy of Windows 10, you can upgrade to Windows 11 for free. Just go to the link in the description below and pick up a valid Windows 10 license key. During checkout, use the code CYBERCPU for a 25% discount. Once you have your key, go to your activation settings in Windows 10 and click on the link that says Change Product Key. Enter the product key you just purchased and hit Activate. Now you don't have to deal with that stupid watermark that come with running an unactivated copy of Windows 10. Now, on with the video. So I just want to take a second to respond to the elephant in the room, just to answer any questions that will inevitably be in the comments about my thumb. You see, this is a new procedure that I'm calling a tummy tuck. In a tummy tuck, a doctor will remove, a portion of your skin in order to sew the existing skin together to give you a more youthful and tighter stomach. Well, I decided to do the same thing with a router and a 1/4-inch rabbit bit to my thumb. As you can see from this picture right here, I was using a router flipped upside down because I don't have a router table, to create a 1/4-inch rabbit in some 1x2 pieces of pine. Yes, I know, before anyone says it, it is not safe to use a router flipped upside down. However, that was not the cause of the accident, but it's still unsafe. So for the record, don't do it. I had about 30 of these things to do, and I'd already finished 20 of them by pulling them through halfway and then flipping it around and pushing them through the other half of the way. This method was working really well, but it was taking a lot of time because I had to make 2 passes on each board. However, it kept my fingers away from the router bit, but I was impatient and I admit I got a little complacent. So I started pulling the boards through the entire way by just simply holding them and passing them through the router bit. And you know what? This method worked way faster considering I was getting impatient, and I figured it would be fine if I did this with the remaining 10 pieces that I had left to do. However, it required me to pull my hand across the router bit, and it was just a fraction of an inch down from where the router bit was spinning. Unfortunately, on the second board, as soon as the board made contact with the router bit, it threw the bit off the router and my hand fell into the bit. It happened in a millisecond, and as a result, I got about a 1-inch gash across my thumb that was about a 1/4 inch wide. Now, the first thing I did after realizing what had happened was to move my thumb in every possible direction to make sure that I had full range of motion. Luckily, it was just a big cut, and it required 6 stitches. But there was no real permanent damage. My thumb should be okay. However, there's a lesson to be learned here. Power tools have no conscience. I got really lucky, but not everyone does. While waiting in the emergency room to get my thumb stitched up, I read that there are over 60,000 accidents a year by woodworking related power tools. And out of those 60,000 accidents, there are 7,000 amputations. So, don't be stupid. Tools are dangerous and they can change your life in a millisecond. So I'm not saying not to use them, but I'm saying if you do, respect them and understand that there's a reason why there's safety protocols put in place involving these types of tools. They're not just there to make your work harder. They're meant to help you walk away from your project with all 10 fingers. But with that said, let's get on with the video. Okay, the way we're going to create this magic thumb drive is by creating an unattended answer file for Windows 11 that essentially does all the work for you. This also works on Windows 10, but we'll be doing this on Windows 11 today. Now, while I'm showing you how to create this thumb drive for computers that don't have supported hardware, it can still be used for systems that do have supported hardware. And also, customizations that we're going to be making to this answer file can be modified to suit your needs very easily. And what's even better, you don't have to have a lot of experience to create this answer file, because we're going to be using an answer file generator that creates the answer file for us by essentially just answering a bunch of questions. So let's jump on the computer and I'll show you how to do it. Okay, here we are in Windows 11, and the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create our actual unattended file itself. So we're going to do that first, and then I'll show you how to take that and integrate it into a Windows 11 install. So for that, we're going to go to this website right here. It's a German website. It's shenegans.de. I have no idea what it means, but I'll leave a link down in the description below. But essentially, all you have to do is go through and answer some questions. And once you get through these questions, it will create the answer file for you. So for mine, I'm going to do English, English, United States, English, and the home location, United States. And then for second keyboard, third keyboard, I'm going to leave those blank. Now, for this one, we're going to do the Intel AMD 64-bit. For Windows 11, you can't do 32-bit anyway. And we're obviously not doing ARM, so we're going to be doing the 64-bit Intel. And obviously, we want to bypass the Windows 11 requirements, so we're going to go ahead and check that. And then also right here, it says allow Windows 11 to be installed without an internet connection. Now, if you decide to check this one right here, it will bypass the account requirements for Windows 11. But there's other ways we can do that down later in the file too. You want to make sure to only check this one if you actually are doing it offline without an internet connection. So make sure that you unplug your network connection when you go to install Windows, or this section won't work right here. But we're going to go ahead and check that anyway, because we're going to do it without an internet connection. But I'm also going to show you the other way down later in this answer file as well. So as we come down here, we can go ahead and let Windows generate a random computer name. I'm not going to name it myself, but if you want to, you can click here and you can name the computer you want. And I'm also going to let Windows determine my time zone and my language and region settings, and it will base those on these answers that you did up here. So that's pretty easy. I'm not even going to mess with that one right there. Now the partition and disk setup, I want to make sure to make this unattended. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and let Windows setup wipe the partition and format the hard drive. Now be careful with this one right here, because if you use this thumb drive on a system that you don't actually want formatted, it will format it anyway. And then also, I'm going to go ahead and select GPT, but if you're doing this on a computer that doesn't support a UEFI file system, then you're going to want to make sure to check MBR. But I'm going to do GPT on this one. Now, for the recovery partition settings, I would go ahead and recommend, I typically do a 1024 megabyte recovery partition. And the reason why I do this is actually Windows 10. It's not Windows 11, but there's a bug in a Windows update for Windows recovery that won't install if the recovery partition isn't big enough. And if you use the default size for the recovery partition, you'll have to use a partition editor in order to expand the size in order to install that update. So I go ahead and modify the Windows recovery partition so I don't have to deal with that. And then from there, I don't bother messing with any of these other ones right here. All you got to do is check the first one, and that should be good. However, if you want, you can go ahead and use a custom disk part script if you want to do it that way as well. But I'm going to go ahead and skip that one because we're going to go ahead and let the installer do all that for us. And then as we scroll down, we can go down to the Windows edition. Now I'm going to use a generic product key, and then right here you can choose which edition you want to install. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and install Pro, but if you have a license for Home, then you have to make sure to set this to Home. But for me, it's going to be Pro for now. But you can also have it enter your own product key if you're using this to install several different systems that have different versions of Windows. Unfortunately, if you have it use your own product key, then it won't be fully unattended. You'll have to actually enter a product key during the setup process. And we want it to be all automated, so I'm going to go to use a generic key. Now, right here where it says user accounts. Now, if you decide you want to create a user account ahead of time, then this will also bypass the Microsoft account requirements because it'll just create your user account for you. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and make the first account just Rich. For the password, I'm going to leave that one blank. And then for the second account, I'm going to go ahead and delete that. I'm not going to have a second account. And then for this one, I'm going to go ahead and log into the first administrator account created. I'm going to go ahead and leave that one checked as well. And then for the next one, I'm going to leave it so passwords don't expire. But if you do, you can use the Windows default and let passwords expire after 42 days. But to be honest with you, that is just annoying to me. I don't like passwords to expire, especially on my local account. So I leave this one to passwords do not expire. And then when it comes to account lockout policy, this is the policy that you would set to how many failed login attempts there are. Now, in this case right here, I'm going to go ahead and use the default policy. But if you want, you can disable it altogether so it doesn't have a lockout policy if you don't want, or you can customize the policy to how many different attempts and how long it will wait before you can log in, before you can make another attempt. Now, as we scroll down right here, these optimizations gives you the ability to change certain features within Windows. Like you can disable Windows Defender, you can disable system protection or system restore, neither of which I would recommend. You can enable long paths, which this one might be a good one to use, or you don't have to if you don't want to. You can also enable remote desktop services, and you can kind of scroll through this and you can see for yourself what some of these different customizations are, but there's quite a bit of them that you can set if you want. Now, some of the ones that I'm going to use is I'm going to go ahead and disable widgets. This will disable this little widget menu in the bottom corner right here. I'm also going to prevent device encryption. And what this does is it automatically enables BitLocker on Windows 11. So I'm going to go ahead and check that so it doesn't do that. I'm also going to use the classic context menu because, to be honest with you, I hate the Windows 11 context menu. Oh, and you know what? One I also missed was disable app suggestions. I'm going to go ahead and check that one too. So as we scroll down here, now I'm going to be testing this on VirtualBox. So I'm going to go ahead and let it install the Oracle VirtualBox guest add-ons. But this one right here, if you're not installing this onto a VM, then it's completely irrelevant and I would ignore this one completely. And as we scroll down, we can also configure a network connection if we want to. But for me, I'm just going to go ahead and hit skip Wi-Fi connection. And this is what you would pick if you have a wired connection anyway. If you don't have wireless, then obviously you don't want to configure your Wi-Fi. But Windows wouldn't do that anyway, even if you did choose that. So we're going to go ahead and scroll down and then Express Settings. This one will let you change how Windows handles its diagnostic data. So if you want, you can disable all of it from the very beginning, or you can enable it all from the very beginning, or you can choose settings interactively during Windows setup. So this is essentially the window that you see right as you're ready to log on to the new profile that asks you all the different diagnostic information that you want. If you check disable all, it'll just turn it all off, which is that's what we normally do anyway. And then as we scroll down, we can see in this section, it allows you to remove a lot of the bloatware that comes with Windows. So you can kind of go through this list and you can decide what things you want taken out and what things you want kept in. Now, I'm typically fairly liberal when it comes to which things I take out. I don't take a lot of stuff out. However, we can say take out Copilot. We can take out OneDrive. We can take out Clipchamp for sure. We could take out Cortana. We could take out Bing Search because does anyone actually use Bing Search? I don't know. We can take out Feedback Hub, and let's go ahead and take out News, Office 365, and we definitely want to get rid of Teams for sure. And you know what? I never use Xbox apps, so I'm going to go ahead and take that one out too. However, you can customize this list any way that you want to customize it to fit your needs. Oh, and while we're at it, let's take out Skype too. So go ahead and check off all the ones that you want removed, and then they'll get removed for Windows. If you want them all, then go ahead and hit deselect all. Or you can hit select all if you want everything removed as you install Windows. And obviously this is making the assumption right here that you're not going to be using this on an already debloated ISO, because if you are, then obviously none of this stuff's going to be here in the first place. So you're going to want to use this on an original Windows 10 or 11 ISO image, not one that you've already modified. And then there's a note right here that also says that if you remove any of these apps, then it will remove all the shortcuts from your start menu right here. So you won't have any shortcuts on your start menu. Even apps that you've chosen to keep, those shortcuts won't show up either. So you'll essentially just have a bare start menu once Windows is installed. And then as you come through here, You can also set up some custom scripts. Now, I'm not going to go into any of this right now, but there's a lot of different options that you have with custom scripts that you can create during the setup process. And then as we go down, you can also configure some of the Windows Defender control too. I'm going to leave this right here to just default with nothing changed, but you can go through and you can change how Windows Defender functions as well. And then as we go down here, there's also a lot of other options right down here at the bottom that will give you more like audio and volume control and things of that nature. We're not going to mess with any of that right here. But once we finish checking all the boxes that we want to check, all we have to do is click right here where it says download the XML file. And when we click that, it will go ahead and download the XML file right into our downloads folder. Okay, now that we have the answer file installed, we can go ahead and create the Windows 11 install USB that we're going to apply the answer file to. Now, I have to use this cheesy little small USB file because I ordered a bunch of thumb drives before this video, and they came in from Amazon, and they were supposed to be 8 GB drives, and they turned out being fraudulent drives. They were 2 GB drives that had the firmware flashed to read as 8 GB. So yeah, you can still get scammed even on Amazon. But I'm going to go ahead and use this old thumb drive, and we're going to create an installer for Windows 11 that we can apply our answer file to. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and minimize this, and we can go ahead and flip over to Windows 11 right here. And this is the Microsoft website where you can download the Windows 11 media creation tool. So I'm going to go ahead and click here to go ahead and download that. And as you can see, it downloads really fast. So to start this, go ahead and just run the file right here. And you're going to want to put your USB drive into the computer so, you know, you have something to create your USB file with. And it's going to take a second to get this started, but once it does, just go ahead and hit accept. And then follow the answer prompts. It's fairly simple. I've shown you how to create a Windows 11 install disk before, so it's pretty straightforward. All you're going to want to do is pick USB flash drive, hit next, and you're going to want to select the flash drive that you already have. Now, I'm going to stop right here because I already created this, and this takes a while to create. So I went ahead and created it in advance. But once you go through this process, it creates the file, and then after that, you're pretty much done. So we can go ahead and close it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit yes to let it quit. And as you can see right here, if I go into this PC, here we go. Here's our Windows 11 setup file. And to apply our answer file to this, this is literally all we have to do. We go ahead and take our autounattended XML file that we created on that website below. We drag it over and drop it into our thumb drive, and that's it. Now, by using that, we can go ahead and set up Windows 11, and it should follow the answer file to all the specifications that we chose. So I'm going to go ahead and install Windows 11 and show you how it works. Okay, so now we have our USB drive created. We can go ahead and close all this, and we can go ahead and launch up VirtualBox. And this is what I'm going to be using in order to create Windows 11 install. So the first thing I want to do is go into settings and make sure that I turned network off. Okay, so network is currently unattached. So we're going to go ahead and cancel that, and we're going to hit start. Now, once this fires up, this should be the equivalent of you setting up Windows 11 on any system that is regular bare hardware. All I'm doing is I'm doing the same thing in a virtual machine just to make it a little bit easier to make a video on it. So we're just going to sit here and wait for the install to start, and you'll see that we essentially have nothing to do. So I'm going to go ahead and play this in fast forward and show you that literally you don't have to touch anything. It will simply install Windows 11 completely hands-free and with no user interaction whatsoever. It's actually super convenient. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and show you how it's done, and we'll meet you back here once it's finished. Okay, and as you can see, Now we have a stripped down, debloated copy of Windows 11 that was technically installed on unsupported hardware because this is VirtualBox and VirtualBox is unsupported hardware. And as you can see, it was created with a local account that didn't even ask me if I wanted to create a Microsoft account. And as you can see right here, if we go into accounts, you can see that it is a local administrator account. And this is, if we go down to system and we go to about, you can see that this is in fact Windows 11 23H2 and it was installed today, which is probably in the past based on the time that you're watching this video, but it's the present now. So as you can see, that's probably the easiest way to install Windows 11 to date. And there's a lot of different things you can use this method for. Personally, I'm going to start using this install on Windows on customer systems because I can essentially plug the thumb drive in and walk away. Anything that saves me time is definitely a benefit. However, if you want to have even more control over your Windows 11 install, then check out this video where I show you how to create a custom ISO for Windows 11 that goes even further than this method. Also, you can combine the two methods to make the perfect Windows 11 install. As always, you guys have a great day. And be careful with power tools.